Welcome on in, everybody, here to the Postgame Pod from McLane Stadium. Nathan King joined here with Jason Caldwell. Auburn gets a big win in Week 1 over Baylor, 38-24, and really the number one storyline tonight is Auburn just gashed this team on the ground. You know, we talked about it before they played the game. You really don't know what you don't know until you kick off, and you've got to kind of assess things and feel things out. Auburn took what Baylor gave it, kind of looked around after the first drive, made some adjustments, and after a 96-yard drive down the field, Jason, they didn't look back. Jackson Arnold was phenomenal with his legs. Both of Auburn's running backs were great. 307 rushing yards for this team, and just kind of buried Baylor in that sense.
Yeah, you know, we had seen Jackson Arnold run the ball at Oklahoma a little bit. We had seen him do some of those things, and look, we knew he was capable of running it. But to see what he was able to do tonight, I thought the storyline of the game for me was the patience that Auburn showed in play calling.
Yeah.
Not only from the sidelines, but Jackson too, because he has the ability to do some of that improvise where he can throw it on his own. Hey, he knew they could run the ball. And Baylor basically played two high safeties the entire game, except for a couple of instances. And they weren't going to let Auburn throw the deep ball. They weren't going to let them throw the one-on-one situations. So because of that, it was a light box. And Auburn was able to, time and time again, run the football. Jackson started it, but Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb,
yes,
I thought both of those guys played the best game of their careers. And it's also the first time they've really been called on in a game like this to do that. Yeah. And so they both said, hey, it was fun for them. And so, I thought that was the star of the show. And we got to mention the offensive line because those guys were knocking guys around all night long.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Look, Jarquez Hunter's not here anymore, but this is the same interior offensive line that blocked for him last year and did a really, really good job. You mentioned Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. 84 yards for Alston, 74 yards for Jeremiah Cobb. $137 and 2 touchdowns for Jackson Arnold. And I just thought, you're talking about Cobb and Alston. I just thought Alston was running a little bit harder than we had seen. We had talked about how he's gotten stronger this summer. Body control from Jeremiah Cobb, we were talking about it up in the press box. The way that they tackled him and he kind of spins forward for another couple yards. I mean, those dirty yards that Hugh Freeze talks about, they were very present for this team. And Jackson Arnold, man, really physical player as well. And I asked Hugh Freeze about it post-game, could you sort of see this was potentially coming, or at least that you had this element of your offense in the scrimmages? Because Freeze talked about it. It's like, it's tough when just because somebody puts a hand on them, they blow a whistle. You got to protect the quarterback. We saw now tonight what those runs would have looked like for them in the preseason, because it was tough to bring down Jackson Arnold. It's tough one-on-one unless you're really in a position to get him. He's fast, he's athletic, he's strong, and really showed that can be a major element. The receivers, we'll see next week. Obviously, but again, they just kind of took what was coming to them in terms of Baylor's defensive, the way they were lining up, and really took it to them on the ground. Yeah,
you do more of this, and teams are going to have to start playing straight up. And so when you start doing that, then you're going to have some opportunities in the passing game. So, a lot of positives coming from the offense. They answered the bell. Big third down throw to Horatio Fields. It was a huge situation. You're able to run 6 more minutes off the clock. You score a touchdown, push it back to 2. That was as big a play as there was in this entire game. The Rashawn Pleasant touchdown obviously was a huge one as well. And shift gears a little bit, the defense, and Nathan, it's the biggest surprise of the night for us.
Sure.
Was the struggle that Auburn had on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, you see games like this where pretty much in the second half, Baylor decided just going to drop back, running, it's really not working. They get a 50-yard run, he gets called back for holding. I mean, they really didn't have much on the ground. So Sawyer Robertson goes over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns for this game. On the one hand, yes, they just kept airing it out, and every team's not going to be able to do that. But like you said, on the other hand, it's surprising, I think, to see, number one, the openings over the middle. I just thought those little crossing routes were just too easy, time and time again. And the tackling. I mean, there were a lot of missed tackles for this group. You brought up a really interesting point. Maybe, and again, you feel things out in the first game. They say the biggest jump you take in college football is week 1 to week 2. And that still matters after a win. Maybe the rotation thing is interesting for this team because you're trying to figure out where certain pieces go. It surprised me tonight. They played all those guys. All those guys they said they were going to play, they played. Maybe after this game, you look at what worked and what didn't, and particularly the personnel that worked and the personnel that didn't work.
Yeah, I think some of that. I think, too, I think you spend a lot of time in the preseason rotating so many guys that sometimes it's hard to get stressed physically.
Yeah.
So you don't have a scrimmage where a guy's playing 40, 50 snaps because you're playing so many different guys. Free said, look, I thought we looked a little sluggish. I did too. Now, it was hot. It's still hot. As we stand here after midnight, it's still hot here. But I thought they looked a little dead-legged on defense a little bit. And, hey, let's do this too. Let's give a lot of credit to Baylor because we talked about it. That's a veteran offense, a veteran offensive line, a bunch of guys on the receiving corps that have played football. And Sawyer Robertson, I thought, was really, really savvy in doing some of the things he did in the passing game. So that's an offense in year 2 under Jake Spavital that's going to score points on folks. And so from Auburn's perspective, I think that was a really good test defensively to come out of the gate. Absolutely. Now you know what you need to work on as you head into this 2-week stretch at home.
And not to just look completely on the positive side after a win, but it's like, if you had told Auburn or told Auburn fans, like, you're going to hold Baylor to 24 points on their home field, I personally, you look at it, it doesn't really matter how you get it. I was telling somebody on our message board, they were talking about Auburn's defense, and I said, look, it's halftime, and you've held them to 1 touchdown on their home field, and they had to get it on 4th down. And so, look, they were really aggressive.
A lot of
4th down attempts in this game. I believe in total they converted 4 of them because 3 on paper, and one of them was from a penalty.
2 inside the red zone.
And drive extenders and all that sort of thing. And so, yes, definitely a lot to work on. I think that's part of this too, Jason, that's really interesting to me. And look, we're in a situation where we haven't seen Auburn in the past 2 years get a really big statement kind of win like this.
Like that.
And finish. And that is the biggest thing in this game. The offense lined up and said, look, you have to go do this or else Baylor's probably going to tie this game up.
Correct.
And they went out and did it. And that's something we haven't seen in the past few seasons.
They answered the bell. And that's what we're talking about. And, hey, week 1, no matter the situation, no matter what it looks like, just find a way to. This was a Raiders game tonight. Just win, baby. That was it. Nothing else. How you do it now, you can tweak it, do some things. Tonight was all about finding a way to get a win. And you had to, to me, this was much better than winning 38-3. Yeah, you would have felt great about winning 38-3, but you leave this game and you had to do some things here that you wouldn't have had to do if it was 38-3.
Yep, that's true.
That's the games you have to win big in the Southeastern Conference, and this was a good start.
Yeah, I thought, early on, Auburn had the momentum. Champ Anthony's out there dancing on defense, and then they got a 3. Like, they had the juice at the right moments. I thought Jackson Arnold, put it a really good way, saying, like, there was a lot of grit on that sideline. Like, they were ready to respond at any moment because, again, credit to Baylor. And then finding a way in different parts of the game, Rayshawn Pleasant, that's why you go and get him. I mean, super, super impressive. The way he just kind of doesn't break stride and just kind of carries down the sideline, really impressive kick return for him. And too, Jason, now we'll close out with this. You mentioned, what you want to work on and making tweaks. It's kind of a perfect situation now that you play Ball State and South Alabama. You've got enough tape. I think that is the most encouraging thing for Auburn tonight. Did you play a perfect game? Absolutely not. Did you just beat Baylor on the road by 2 touchdowns? You did. And now you feel like you have a couple weeks to try to get ready for SEC.
That's it. Now it's fine-tuned, cleaned up. You said, hey, what can you improve and how much can you improve heading into these next 2 games? That's the barometer for this team now. Yeah. Lot to work on, but you got a lot to work on being 1-0. That's a great place to be.
It's a different feeling when you come away from here and you're 1-0 and you've got those things to touch on in the film room. And so really big win. No matter how you slice it, like we said, in the pregame show, just got to get a win. And, man, they were really impressive in a lot of different areas, particularly on the ground. 307 rushing yards for this team and a 38-24 win over Baylor. For Jason Caldwell, I am Nathan King. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It is very, very late. It is, I guess, already Saturday. We've been doing a lot of stuff at AuburnUndercover.com, and we will continue doing it throughout the weekend into next week. So go join us. Go check us out over there, and we'll talk to y'all soon.